Every level of NVIDIA GPU families explained. Level 1, GT. The bottom rung, the card nobody talks about anymore, but the one that taught millions what a graphics card even was. This is the Internet Cafe GPU, the office desktop enabler, the thing your dad's computer had in 2012 that let him watch YouTube and play solitaire without the screen stuttering. It's not built to impress. It's built to exist. GT stands for nothing official, but in NVIDIA's world, it meant basic graphics, display output, video playback, maybe some very old games at low settings. The GT line was never about power. It was about function. Get the image from the motherboard to the monitor, do it cheaply, do it quietly, don't ask for a power connector. These cards ran on pure efficiency. Low power draw, passive cooling in many cases, single slot designs. They used older architectures, cut down cores, narrow memory buses. A GT 1030, for example, had only 384 CUDA cores and a 64-bit memory bus. Compare that to gaming cards with thousands of cores and 256-bit buses. It's not even the same species. The GT 710, the GT 1030. Cards that cost $50, $80 new and showed up in pre-built office PCs everywhere. You'd find them in bank teller stations, library computers, budget home builds, where the buyer just needed something with HDMI. They weren't marketed. They were invisible. But they moved volume. Here's what people miss about GT cards. They defined the baseline. Every GPU family above this exists because GT couldn't do what came next. It couldn't push frames. It couldn't handle modern textures. It couldn't run Fortnite at playable settings. GT was the line in the sand. Everything beyond this point is about performance. You can spot this level when someone asks, "Do I even need a graphics card?" When the goal is just make the display work, you're in GT territory. But once you want more than a working display, once you want to actually game the air shifts, you've left the lobby. The next level is where NVIDIA built its empire. Level 2 GTX. This is where NVIDIA became a household name, the badge every gamer recognized. The green light on the side of the case that said, "I can run this." GTX is the main arena, the bright, crowded stadium where the real competition happens. If GT was the hallway, GTX is the tournament floor. Loud, fast, and built for one thing: frames per second. GTX stood for Giga Texel Shader Extreme, but nobody cared about the acronym. What mattered was the promise. GTX meant gaming performance. It meant you could play the latest AAA titles, push high settings, and chase that mythical 60 FPS. From the GTX 200 series in 2008 to the GTX 16 series in 2019, this family defined PC gaming for over a decade. GTX cards were built on pure raster performance. CUDA cores for parallel processing. Memory bandwidth to feed textures. Clock speeds to push pixels. No ray tracing cores, no tensor cores, no AI upscaling, just raw traditional rendering power. The GTX 1080 Ti had 3,584 CUDA cores, 11 GB of GDDR5X memory, and a 352-bit memory bus. It was a brute force machine. The GTX 750 Ti, the budget king that refused to die. The GTX 1060, the most popular gaming GPU on Steam for years. The GTX 1080 Ti, the card that made 4K gaming feel possible. These weren't just products, they were eras. Each one defined what good enough meant for its generation. But here's what GTX buyers didn't realize. The world was shifting underneath them. Game engines were evolving. Lighting models were changing. Ray tracing was no longer a research paper. It was coming to games. And GTX cards, no matter how powerful, couldn't do it. They didn't have the hardware. They were fast, but they were stuck in the past. You can spot this level when someone defends their GTX 1080 Ti like it's still 2017. When they say, "Ray tracing is a gimmick." When their settings page doesn't have an RT section. That's GTX life. And then NVIDIA changed the game. They didn't just release faster cards, they released a new kind of card. One that could render light the way light actually works. One that could fake resolution so convincingly you'd swear it was real. The next level wasn't an upgrade, it was a revolution. Level 3 RTX. The card that split the PC gaming world in half. Some called it the future. Others called it a $1,200 tech demo. Both were right. RTX is the VIP section of the arena. Same event, but different rules. Enhanced lighting, reflections that actually reflect, shadows that move like real shadows, and a trick called DLSS that makes low-resolution images look high-resolution through sheer algorithmic wizardry. RTX didn't replace GTX, it evolved it. Same CUDA cores for traditional rendering, but now with two new types of hardware baked into the chip. RT cores for ray tracing and tensor cores for AI processing. Ray tracing simulates how light bounces in the real world. Tensor cores run machine learning models that upscale, denoise, and generate frames. Together, they unlocked effects that GTX cards could only dream about. An RTX 4070, for example, has 5,888 CUDA cores, 46 RT cores, 3rd generation, and 184 tensor cores, 4th generation. When a game enables ray tracing, those RT cores calculate light paths, reflections, and global illumination in real time. The RTX 2080 Ti, the card that launched the generation and immediately became controversial for its $1,200 price tag and minimal ray tracing support at launch. The RTX 3080, the card everyone wanted but couldn't buy during the GPU shortage. The RTX 4090, the absolute monster that costs $1,600 and laughs at 4K gaming. These cards didn't just play games, they redefined what graphics could look like. Here's the dirty secret about RTX. Ray tracing is expensive, extremely expensive. Even a 4090 struggles to hit 60 FPS at 4K with full ray tracing enabled in demanding games. That's why DLSS exists. It's not a bonus feature, it's a crutch. A brilliant crutch, but still a crutch. RTX cards are fast, but they are also selling you a future that the hardware can't fully deliver yet. You can spot this level when someone brags about RT Ultra settings, but won't mention their DLSS is set to performance mode. When screenshots look incredible, but gameplay feels different. When the spec sheet has 3 different core counts instead of 1. But gamers aren't the only ones who need power. Some people need more than frames. They need memory. They need compute. They need a card that doesn't just play games but creates them. And for a long time, NVIDIA had a card for that. A beast that lived between worlds. Level 4, Titan. The card with the God complex. The one that cost as much as a used car and made you feel like you'd bought the sun. Titan was the bridge. 1 foot in the gaming world, 1 foot in the professional world, and a price tag that made both audiences uncomfortable. It was the Swiss Army knife. The card that could do everything but wasn't quite perfect at anything. Titan wasn't a family like GTX or RTX. It was a statement. These were the biggest chips NVIDIA could manufacture, packaged with massive amounts of VRAM, sold at prices that made the top-tier gaming cards look reasonable. They were marketed to gamers, but their real audience was 3D artists, AI researchers, video editors, and anyone who needed GPU power but couldn't justify $5,000 for a Quadro. A Titan RTX had 4,608 CUDA cores, 576 tensor cores, 72 RT cores, and 24 GB of GDDR6 memory. That memory capacity was the key. Gaming cards topped out at 11 to 12 GB. Titan gave you double. That meant bigger 3D scenes, longer timelines in video editing, larger AI training batches. It used the same gaming drivers as RTX cards, so you got game performance too. But it was never optimized for either world. The original Titan in 2013, based on the Kepler architecture, 6 GB of VRAM for $1,000. The Titan XP, the card that could actually handle 4K gaming when 4K gaming was brand new. The Titan RTX, the last true Titan before NVIDIA quietly killed the brand and repositioned the RTX 3090 as the spiritual successor. These cards were legends in their time, expensive legends. But here's what Titan buyers learned the hard way. Compromise always costs you something. Titan had the memory, but Workstation cards had certified drivers. Titan had the gaming performance, but gaming cards were better optimized. Titan had the prestige, but you were essentially paying double for the privilege of being stuck in the middle. You can spot this level when someone justifies their $2,500 GPU purchase by saying, "But I also do 3D rendering." And while Titan played both sides, There was always a line NVIDIA refused to let it cross. Professional certification, driver stability, the guarantee that when you opened Maya or AutoCAD, everything would just work. That world belonged to a different family entirely. Level 5 Quadro. Now we're leaving the gamer's world entirely. This is the Workstation, the professional's tool. The GPU that doesn't advertise frame rates because frame rates don't matter here. Quadro is the quiet room at the back of the building. No RGB lights, no marketing hype, just engineers, architects, designers, and scientists who need one thing: reliability. Quadro cards weren't faster than gaming cards. Often they were slower. But they were built for a different kind of performance, precision, stability, certification. When you're designing a bridge in AutoCAD, you can't have the viewport glitch. When you're rendering medical imaging data, you can't have artifacts. When you're running finite element analysis, you need every calculation to be correct, every time. Quadro delivered that. These cards use the same GPU chips as GeForce cards, but with different firmware, different memory configurations, and most importantly, different drivers. Quadro drivers were certified by software vendors. Autodesk, Adobe, Dassault Systems, they all tested their applications specifically on Quadro hardware. If something broke, NVIDIA and the software company would work together to fix it. Gaming cards didn't get that support. A Quadro P5000 had 2560 CUDA cores and 16 GB of GDDR5X memory. On paper, similar to a GTX 1080, but it cost 4 times as much. Why? Error-correcting memory, longer product life cycles, extended warranties, professional support, and that certification guarantee. You weren't just buying silicon. You were buying peace of mind. The Quadro FX series in the 2000s, the cards that dominated film and VFX studios. The Quadro RTX 8000, 48 GB of memory for massive datasets and simulations. The Quadro cards that sat in medical imaging machines, air traffic control systems, defense contractors' workstations. These cards didn't chase benchmarks, they chased uptime. But here's the catch about Quadro. It was stuck in the past, the branding felt old, the marketing was non-existent. And when RTX gaming cards started getting tensor cores and ray tracing, suddenly gamers had features that Quadro buyers were paying premium prices for. NVIDIA needed to modernize. You can spot this level when someone's GPU costs more than their entire PC build would have. When they care more about driver version numbers than FPS. And then NVIDIA rebranded. Same cards, same purpose, new name. The next level is Quadro's evolution. Level 6, RTX A-Series and RTX Pro. This is Quadro reborn. Same DNA, modern skin. NVIDIA realized that Quadro sounded ancient, so they killed the name and merged the professional line into the RTX family. Now, instead of Quadro RTX 8000, you get RTX A6000. Same card, same drivers, same purpose, just better branding. RTX A-Series is the new face of workstation graphics. It's designed for 3D artists using Blender, architects using Revit, engineers using SolidWorks, and studios rendering with Unreal Engine. These cards have massive VRAM, advanced cooling for 24/7 operation, and the same certified driver stack that Quadro had. But now, they also have the full RTX feature set. Ray tracing for real-time previews, tensor cores for AI-accelerated denoising, and NVIDIA's studio drivers optimized for creative applications. An RTX A6000 has 10752 CUDA cores, 336 tensor cores, 84 RT cores, and 48 GB of GDDR6 memory with ECC. That's more memory than most people have in their entire system RAM. The RTX A4000, the mid-tier workstation card that fits in small form factor cases. The RTX A5000, the sweet spot for most professional workflows. The RTX 6000 Ada, the current flagship with 48 GB, and the latest Ada Lovelace architecture. These cards power film studios, automotive design centers, medical research labs, and architectural firms. They're everywhere you don't see them. But here's what most people don't understand about RTX Pro cards. They're not just expensive gaming cards. The hardware is binned higher, meaning the chips are selected for quality and stability. The firmware is different. enabling features like Quadro Sync for multi-GPU rendering. And the support is enterprise-grade with longer warranties and direct lines to NVIDIA engineers when something breaks. You can spot this level when someone's GPU has more VRAM than their games could ever use. When their employer paid for the card because it's a business expense, not a hobby. That's the professional workstation world. But even RTX Pro cards aren't the top. There's one more level. A place where graphics don't matter anymore because rendering is just a side task. The final level is where GPUs stopped being about pixels and started being about intelligence. Level 7, Tesla, A-Series, H-Series, and L-Series. The data center, the AI training ground, the realm where a single GPU costs more than a luxury car and doesn't even have a display output. This is the end of the map. These aren't graphics cards anymore. They're compute accelerators, machines built to run neural networks, train large language models, process scientific simulations, and handle workloads that would take a CPU years to complete. This is where NVIDIA makes most of its money now, and it's the family most people will never see. Tesla was the original data center GPU line. The Tesla K80, M40, P100, cards designed purely for compute with no graphics capabilities at all. Then NVIDIA shifted to the A-Series for AI, the A100, the card that dominated machine learning from 2020 to 2023. Then the H100, the current king of AI training, built on the Hopper architecture with 80 GB of HBM3 memory and designed specifically for transformer models. An H100 has 16896 CUDA cores, but that stat is almost meaningless because data center GPUs are measured differently. They're rated in teraflops of compute, memory bandwidth, and interconnect speed. It costs around $30,000 per card, and companies buy thousands of them. These cards don't have fans. They have liquid cooling or specialized data center cooling. They don't have PCIe power connectors. They have custom power delivery systems pulling 700 watts continuously. They don't sit in gaming cases. They sit in rack-mounted servers with 8 GPUs connected by NVLink, pooling their memory and compute into a single unified system. The L40S, designed for AI inference and data center graphics. These are the cards training ChatGPT, Stable Diffusion, and every other AI model you've heard of. They're rendering Pixar films on server farms. They're running climate simulations and protein folding calculations. But here's the final truth about data center GPUs. You'll never own one. They're not sold to consumers. They're sold to cloud providers, research institutions, and massive corporations with data center contracts. You don't buy an H100. You rent access to one through AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure at $3.5 per hour. And even if you could buy one, you couldn't power it, cool it. You can spot this level when the GPU doesn't have a price tag you can find online. This is where the GPU family tree ends, not with gaming, not with graphics, but with pure computation, the iceberg's bottom. And now you understand the full spectrum. NVIDIA didn't just build graphics cards. They built an empire on silicon, one family at a time, each serving a different master. 7 levels, from display to intelligence. That's the map.